Shall we?
We shall.
What impresses me most about him is the fact that even with his extremely high level of intelligence, he is able to come down to our level and communicate whatever that knowledge is to us.
Definitely the ease with which Professor Mann solves complex problems. I'd like to think it's due mainly to his experience, but I know it's just the way God wired him.
Coming into law school, I had one idea of what I wanted to do. Then I take his classes, and all of a sudden, I go down a completely different path.
Professor Manns went through one of his typical hypotheticals with a family, and he mentioned how there was a new grandchild, and he motioned in his arms like, do you know what a new grandchild means? And he looked down and said, another annual exclusion.
My most memorable moment has to be when he managed to work in an analogy about a goat, a lion, and a chimera into a dormant commerce clause lecture.
His dedication for finding the truth and really consistently trying on a daily basis to teach that truth to us, even though I believe that Professor Tuomala is so smart and so learned, is often hard to convey to us, but I appreciate the attempt every day.
He doesn't just teach us what the law is, but teaches us where the law came from, like its foundations and how it evolved over time. And that really helps us determine whether or not the court has it right now. We don't just learn and accept, oh, the court says this is the law. He helps us to challenge that by looking at where it's come from.
A skill I have learned from Professor Tuomala is the skill to just pull a legal framework out of a particular case and apply that to all future case law. That's something that was crucial and something that the court even has trouble with.
Law school has a way of kind of sucking the comedy out of life, and he has this really intellectual way of inserting humor, sometimes so subtly we don't really recognize it, but into just complex constitutional issues. Thank you for your service to the school and the students, and we will not forget Marshall.
I'd have to say I learned how to tell a story, and do so in a persuasive way, in a convincing way, before a jury.
His level of energy just keeps you alert, and he kind of forces you to just think critically about everything.
His passion for teaching, and not only his passion for teaching, but how he so passionately incorporates the scripture into his teaching.
He's creative on his feet. He exudes so much passion for what he does and has such a hyper attention to detail that it inspires you to try much harder and to have a little bit more confidence when you're standing in the courtroom.
I think it was the first day of class. We had Professor Pope, and as she was writing on the board, she said, I wish I was a little bit taller. And then, without missing a beat, Professor Ross responds, I wish I was a baller. And I'm like, did he just say that?
There's a fine line between naughty and nasty, and a good lawyer knows the difference.
I probably laugh more in his presence than I have with any other professor. I don't think he realizes how funny he is sometimes.
I really appreciate his willingness to delve into things like securities regulation or banking regulation when most Christians shy away from it and have kind of abandoned that area of the law, and his dedication to jump in and show you how much the world of business has Christian principles tied into it.
And Professor Chrisman came in after having suffered the loss of a child, and his devotion to start the class that day, he talked about Job. Job said, the Lord gave and the Lord has taken away. Blessed be the name of the Lord. And for him to come into the classroom that day and quote that scripture and stand before the class confidently placing his faith in God and trusting him, it just meant a lot to me.
Well, you taught me that you gotta ask yourself, what is the law? How do I apply it? Because that's the framework, and it never changes.
He's really inspired me to see the service-based nature of the legal profession and to look at it as really a fulcrum for doing good in society. And I know that's something that
a lot of people come to Liberty with the idea of doing, but I think he makes it more than just sort of a heady, airy, philosophical idea. Really makes it down to earth and practical, because he asks you, he says, well, okay, are you ready to take what we've discussed today and go help somebody with it? And if you're not, then why are you here?
It was Professor Lucas who first taught me the policies that we have behind the law.
When he is joking, I can't quite tell, and sometimes it's scary. But then it's really funny. I asked him for some critique, some helpful criticisms following the tryouts for the trial team, and he looked at me and he said, I got 2 words for you. Transactional law. And then deadpan. 2 seconds later, I'm just joking.
He's very energetic.
He's great at communicating in a variety of different ways, whether it's just a sudden, deep question that he throws out at you, or a story that he tells. He's a great storyteller.
I go up after class and I'm talking to him about something with the pro-life movement. And I'm saying it's missing this, it's missing that. He's just listening and he's listening, and finally he says to me, well, do something about it.
The biggest thing that I've learned from Professor Klein is truth and passion and how those two interrelate.
Professor Klein taught me to place conviction over career if necessary.
The incredible example that he has been of commitment to truth and justice in spite of the odds and the consequences and the opposition.
He thinks that tax at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Monday is really cool. I think that unique means you're the only one, right? So I think that would make him unique.
Half man, half bionic super tax computing machine.
The way he goes about teaching has really had a profound effect on my future of wanting to be a teacher and a professor. It just makes me realize how important it is to know your material closely and to understand what you're talking about.
Before he was even a professor, he went all out to make a difference in my life as even a mentee back then. And I remember all the time throughout the semester I would get emails, exam tips, better ways to be able to write on the exam.
After the moot court tournament that we went to together, I didn't do as well as I wanted to, and him knowing how competitive I am and how well I wanted to do, he wrote me a handwritten letter that I received in the mail the next day, right after the tournament, telling me how well I had done and, you know, just kind of encouraging me.
She still has her litigator swag, and you just don't want to go up against her because you're going to lose.
I think the most important thing that we've learned from her in class is the importance of knowing the vocabulary and being able to spot the issues, knowing key terms, so that we can identify issues when clients walk into our office.
And the burden shifting analysis.
McDonnell Douglas.
Well, she brings out the practical aspects of knowing the law, and she stresses being prepared, ultra prepared when it comes to being in practice.
Thank you for the love you've shown us and the concern you've shown us as students.
Here he is a judge, and he's at our law school, but yet he's just so approachable.
I remember back to my first semester and the first time getting called on in his class, and I was just so reluctant to answer the questions, and he could tell that I knew what I was talking about, but I was trying to hold it back. After class that day, he sent me a very encouraging email, you know, to let me know that he could see that I knew what I was talking about, but just, you know, that I need to show it. I need to just say it.
Whenever we had devotions in the morning before class, we just had an opportunity just to learn more about Jesus Christ and what God has for us in the Bible, and I appreciated how we would read the scriptures and just have a moment just to listen to what the Spirit is sharing with us.
He could still, you know, be a practicing judge right now. He doesn't have to be here, but he really cares about us.
We were in Chicago for our arbitration tournament, and she had this long red puffy J. Crew coat, and she said that she looked like she was in the Santa Claus movie, and she started doing like the walk and singing the song, and we were all following behind her.
One important thing I learned from Professor Bell was that whenever we walk into a courtroom, nobody better know our case better than we do.
Even when she's frustrated, and you know she's frustrated, she still takes the time to explain what she wants from you.
She has the ability to just kind of seamlessly transition into so many different roles, whether it's benevolent dictator who calls the shots and makes the decisions, or whether it's mothering us.
I always say that Professor Bell is a Sour Patch Kid because she's sour and then she's sweet. So she'll fuss at you 1 minute for doing something wrong, and then the next day she'll bring you cookies or cupcakes to practice.
She did demand excellence from us and demanded really hard work, but she always told us that she never would ask us to do anything that she wasn't doing.
Thank you for having the ability and the patience to take a group of people who, before last semester, really didn't know each other very well, and turning us into a winning team, and now we're all friends.
The funniest moment that I remember is when, it's got to be when she pulled out that chicken, that rubber chicken. I was not expecting that. So the one lesson I learned from her that I'll always remember is that when you're most overwhelmed with the things around you or your circumstances, that's when you need to spend more time with the Lord and more time in fellowship with Him.
She expected a lot, but at the same time, she didn't make me afraid to come to class.
Innate ability to make a stick figure real and come to life, just a skill that I've never seen in the school.
Acting out in towards was fun. I think one day I ran her over with an imaginary bicycle.
I'd like to thank her for her willingness to just be open and share things with us, the ways that God has been influential in her life.
He lived in California, he taught in South Korea, and he's so involved internationally between Argentina and Bolivia, Mongolia, and just every place you can almost think of.
He really challenges you in the classroom and out to go and find the answer on your own, and that's really what he believes makes an effective lawyer.
Each class is just chock full of practical skills that I'll really be using upon graduation and practicing real property.
He is willing to meet with you outside of class and get to know you, and to help to further your walk as a believer, but also to help make you a better person.
I really look up to him and admire him a lot. If I could achieve half the things he has, both personally and professionally, I would consider my life a success.
She exudes confidence when she stands in a courtroom, and I think that that's something I have kind of strived to emulate. She would give examples when necessary, and she would actually stand up and do an exercise, and I was always so grateful for that because I learned best by example. I've always wanted to do trial work, and having taken trial ad with her, I think that that definitely has impacted my career.
I don't think I've met a professor that more easily and more readily expresses his joy around students and in everything that he does.
His genuine heart and deference for the scriptures. He takes significant time at the beginning of class to read through the scriptures and expound on them in a way that shows that he really wants his students to understand and also appreciate the scriptures.
He has what would seem like competing skill sets, and I'll always remember his story about waiting for God to bring him into a position that would satisfy both of those skill sets.
Positive and very kind, very joyful, and excited to do his job and to interact with the students.
He speaks his mind. There's no holding back with that guy. He'll tell you the truth no matter what.
Professor T, he is one of those professors that you have to have when you come to Liberty. He is energetic, he's funny, he's exciting. Just everything about his personality and the way he teaches, it's just
it's something that you always remember, and it's something that really impacted my life here at Liberty.
The lessons that he taught us about who the Lord is in his life, and how we can learn from that.
He really does have a passion for teaching. You see that in every day that you sit in the classroom with him. He loves the material he teaches, but more importantly, he loves teaching students. And I think he really invests a lot into us, and he really wants us to succeed, and that's something that I'll always remember.
I appreciate that he's able to laugh about himself. He's very good at the self-degradation, I guess you could say. He's not the tallest man in the world. That's a very endearing quality that I would like to be able to emulate.
That cool law school professor that you see in John Grisham movies.
He's taught me to, I guess, read critically, especially like some of those major cases that we're reading in Foundations right now that have major social impacts on society as a whole.
It really kind of empowers you to go out there and use what you're learning and to study it more.
Family is just as important as work is. So she really teaches us by talking about her family, and she's like such a great mom, how to separate school and family and not to leave family behind.
She comes to class expecting that God's going to move in class. You know, she prays that way before class starts.
I just appreciate how strong she is in her faith and just how passionate she is for the cause, and you just can see that reflected in her life choices.
Professor Udabong is very genuine and very caring for all of her students.
She really showed me that the most important thing is to be prayerful. No matter what we do and what difficulties we encounter, it's important to run to the Lord and ask for His help.
I remember how in our adoption law class, she didn't just talk about adoption, but she also shared experiences about her personal testimony and how she was adopted into the kingdom of God.
Her perspective is definitely unique, coming from another country, especially learning immigration law from an immigrant.
There were times when she saw that I was under stress, and so she would send an email, and it's just so refreshing and helpful to see that somebody actually cares about me.
Last semester, when we had the memo to file due, I went into her office almost every other day, asking her questions, and she was willing to sit there and answer every question and review the draft over and over again. I walked into her office, I gave her the memo, and I was just like, please read this. Tell me it's okay. And she sat there, and as she went through the pages, I just watched as her face lit up. And at the very end of it, she looks at me and she says, Ms. Bramnick, you've got it. And I remember just the surge of joy that I felt at that moment as I realized that she was so excited for me. It was as if it was a victory for her as well as a victory for me. I would like to say, Professor Hart, you are an amazing professor. I greatly admire just how much you love the Lord and how much you love us.
He said, you know, if there was something going on in the class, we have to take care of it as professors, but if you take it outside, that's fine. You guys can fight. I might even sell tickets to the fight.
There is a human on this earth who can be 100% productive all the time. I don't think the man knows what procrastination is.
No.
You ask him to do something and it's done.
Or if he does, he procrastinates productively.
Yes.
What makes him unique is that he has a good balance of really teaching well and having a little fun to it and everything, because you know, it's great to take the law and make it so that people can really enjoy learning it.
He takes you and, you know, makes it sound like he's just giving you little pointers along the way, when actually he can change the entire way you look at something, or make you revamp your entire approach to an issue or to an argument.
He's always there. I always had questions for him, and he would always be there to answer. And he just is really personable.
He's just a testimony that you can make time for the things that count, like family and God and friends and life and law school, and your career will still go on. Probably the first time in one of our moot court board meetings, he showed us that he is aware of
viral YouTube videos when he broke out in one of those
Like a
like
boss.
a boss.
If you want to hear Professor Thompson say, "I got bronchitis," ask him to do it for you.
Whether that's jumping up on top of chairs and pretending to be a judge, or whether it's doing skits in class to try and help us to understand the concepts, he really just goes all out. I just remember sitting in the classroom and just being so astonished at a law professor, being so open and honest about his faith, being so energetic in the classroom, and just being so fun and allowing skits in his class. I just like to tell Professor Hesh thank you so much for always encouraging us, always believing in us, and providing us with an opportunity to work hard and to glorify God in all that we do.
It's a beard amongst mere peach fuzz. Professor Rice taught us many life lessons, told us many stories, telling us about doing the hard work first, telling us in our careers to make sure we're not just a cog in the wheel. I think I really appreciated his patience with our class, 1L a year, and go blue and hail to the victors.
Great communicator. She's very open, her personality is kind and warm, and so that makes for a great learning experience for students.
She has always told us, I will put into it what you put into it, and if you turn an assignment and you've put forth effort and really tried, she will go through and really just try to train you and show you, how to do better and how to write properly, and she does that.
Dean Lindvaltson is a really great teacher. She has a lot of passion about the subject matter.
I just really appreciate the level of care and support that she shows to the student body.
I think she's a great role model for females. I mean, she cares a lot about her family. That's so obvious. It helps you feel like, okay, you can do that too.
He cares about every single individual that he comes across, and especially about the students. I actually first met Dean Staver while I was working in DC, before I even went to law school. He made a pretty big impression upon me, and so after coming here and meeting him during orientation, he actually recognized me, which was incredible. It showed me that even though he was incredibly focused on the big picture, on everything that he wanted to protect, he was also focused on the individual.
He's a dean that started off as a pastor, so he can handle the Word of God well, but also as an advocate, he's stood and argued in front of some of the most important people in this world, and the way that he's able to be excellent in both disciplines and to be well respected in both disciplines. Just that example is something that I can look at and try to apply those same disciplines in the areas of study that I want to pursue. And
seeing Dean Staver outside of law school in, wearing jeans and just completely laid back, playing pranks on everyone. We were taking a tour around Israel, and there's like olive trees everywhere. And these trees are maybe, 1,000 years old. Dean Staver was standing by one of the trees, and he looked like he was, eating something. And I walked up, I was passing him by, and he said, Rachel, have you had one of these olives? And I said, no. He's like, it's the sweetest thing I've ever tasted. And so I tasted one, it was the nastiest thing I had ever tasted. I don't think he stopped laughing, until he got onto the bus.
some of the criticisms that I've heard about Dean Staver is that he pays too much attention to the things that are near and dear to his heart, that he gives too much of his energy to the causes he believes in, and that he works too earnestly for the things that matter to him, the issues that matter. But I hope one day that could be said of me as well, that I took too much of a stand and had too much of a firm resolve on the very things that matter, on the very causes that matter.